Andrew McCarthy says, let's try a thought experiment. Say John McCain attended a party where known racists and terror mongers were in attendance. Say testimonials were given, including a glowing one by McCain for the benefit of the guest of honor who happened to be a top apologist for terrorists. Say that McCain not only gave a speech but stood by in tactic approval and solidarity while other racist and terror mongers gave speeches that reeked of hatred for an American ally and rationalization of terror attacks. Now, let's say that the Los Angeles Times obtained videotape of the party. The question is there any chance whatsoever that the Times would not release the tape and publish front-page story after story about the gory details with the usual accompanying chorus of sanctimony from the op-ed commentaries? Is there any chance, if the Times was the least bit reluctant about publishing, remember, we're pretending here, that the rest of the mainstream media, you know, the guys who drove Trent Lott out of his leadership position over a birthday party toast, would not be screaming for the release of the tape? Of course they would. Andrew McCarthy brings us the details now of this real-life scenario, except it's not John McCain, it's Barack Obama. Hey, Andrew, how are you?
I'm great, Glenn. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I'm not surprised by this story. I mean, I've been watching Khalidi for a while and thinking to myself, when is this thing ever going to break? And you're bringing it. Tell us about the tape that the Los Angeles Times has.
Well, in 2003, there was a farewell party for Rashid Khalidi. He was leaving the University of Chicago to go to Columbia here in the New York area.
Who is he, so people know?
Yeah, exactly. He was a spokesman for the PLO during the Arafat days, and also was an advisor to Arafat during the peace negotiations.
Well, that doesn't mean well, he was an advisor during the peace negotiations. It doesn't mean that he's a bad guy.
Well, except that if you get peace negotiations by sort of bombing your way to the table, I think that needs to be factored in. In any event, he's a longtime admirer of both the ideology and methodology of Yasser Arafat. His wife, Mona, was the top English translator in Arafat's basically publicity department at the PLO. And together they put together something that was called the Arab American Action Network, which when Barack Obama and Bill Ayers teamed up to be on the board of the Woods Foundation, they underwrote that organization, the Arab American Action Network, to the tune of tens of thousands of dollars.
And what's wrong with an Arab American Action Network? Don't we all need an action network? Isn't that like the White People's Justice League?
Well, yeah, I suppose they have every right to confederate and to take their positions, but I would think people would be interested in what their positions were, which basically is to be an apologist for Palestinian terror, and to take other positions like driver's licenses and other public welfare benefits for illegal aliens.
Okay.
So they are a leftist outfit of the same sort of coin as many of the other outfits that were funded by Ayers and Obama when they worked together during the 90s.
Okay, but I mean, this was just a party of a guy that he knew, that he really didn't know, and it was just a regular party. I mean, who else was there? There had to be some friends of Ronald Reagan there as well.
Well, there were other friends. You know, the two guys who don't know each other hardly at all, Obama and Ayers, it turns out by some really funky coincidence that they just happened to have the same best friend, Rashid Khalidi. And as it happens then, Khalidi, who was a frequent dinner companion of the Obamas, also had in attendance at his going-away fete Bill Ayers and Bernardine Dawn, the former weatherman terrorists. There are also a variety of other Palestinian friends and allies of Khalidi. And the night was a night of testimonials, not just to Khalidi, but to the cause.
Give me some examples of what was said.
Well, there were basically, there was one glowing testimonial that was given by Obama, which, as the LA Times reported, was of a different sort of ferocity. I guess ferocity is the wrong term for Obama, but it was a different tone than some of the other speeches. There were strident speeches that were given that basically portrayed Israel as a terrorist state and illegitimate, which shouldn't be surprising to anyone because that is what Khalidi's position has been. Khalidi has been somebody who has supported terrorist attacks, at least on official Israeli targets. As I understand it, he at least says he doesn't support terrorist attacks against civilian targets, but military and official government Israeli targets he has encouraged as something he calls resistance rather than
but Barack Obama, this happened in 2003. He was only 42 when Khalidi said those things.
Yeah, that is true. You know, he hadn't reached, I guess, the age of reason. What is the age of reason for lefties?
I'm not really sure. Okay, so he's at this with William Ayers. This is the Arab American Action Network is something that the Woods Foundation funded with Barack Obama's signature on it.
Right.
He was with a bunch of people that were celebrating Khalidi getting his professorship, I guess, at Columbia University. This is a farewell party for him.
Yes, right.
But can't it be said that he didn't really know Khalidi? He wasn't aware of who Khalidi really was. I mean, we all go to parties and we all say things about people that are leaving. I mean, they didn't really know each other, did they, Andrew?
Well, from what we understand, they knew each other actually quite well. They were the families were intimate friends to the point that at least some reports indicate that the Khalidis actually babysat for the Obama children, and even by Obama's own account at the party when he gave his speech, he and his wife were frequent dinner companions of the Khalidis and shared long meals and long conversations, which, according to Obama, opened his eyes to his own prejudices, whatever those may be.
Why do you hate people who are different than you, Andrew?
Well, because I guess I'm just a bitter clinger. What can I tell you?
I mean, it's unbelievable. Okay, so Andrew, the L.A. Times, they have the videotape.
Right.
Where did they get the videotape?
Well, the reporter, Mr. Walston, has not disclosed what his source was for the videotape, and to the extent that he's given any indication at all, a blog site called Gateway Pundit has interviewed him, and he's basically said he considers the story over and doesn't have any intention of releasing the tape.
Andrew, have you ever seen anything like this?
Well, no. I actually think, Glenn, in all seriousness, this transcends the normal amount of media bias that, is basically a fact of life that is a constant irritant, but something that we learn to live with. This really, to me, is more like the mainstream media being recruited in a wholesale fashion to be a subsidiary or surrogate of a national campaign. It really is an astounding phenomenon, and I think it's of a dimension different from anything we've seen before.
Why do you think the media is doing this?
They want Obama to win.